All right, and welcome to this sort of board game focused episode. For this particular one, we are going to be discussing different games and things like that looking forward to seeing at Pax Unplugged this weekend. For anyone who doesn't know, Pax Unplugged is a board game convention in Philadelphia, usually the first, sometimes second full weekend of December. They mostly do board games there, but there is quite a bit of miniatures. I, however, am mostly going to talk about board games, and the reason being is if I want to do a miniatures tournament, those are happening at various stores, especially where I am in Jersey, most weekends. Depending on the game I want to play, I could probably find it, and even if I can't find necessarily a tournament for it, I can find some players in different stores and be able to go out and do that. I know through all the various Discords, it's not too tough, at least where I am. And since I like board games as well, and my wife goes, and my sister, my brother-in-law, a bunch of friends, all those people go, and they're much more board gamers. That's what I do for the weekend. So what I thought I would do on this one, this is pre-going. As of the day you see this, we'll be there about a day or so later, about 2 days later, depending on how fast I get this out. But what I thought I'd do was talk about some of the games that I'm looking forward to seeing. So if you happen to be someone who's going, and maybe originally like me, you haven't necessarily been keeping up on what are sort of the interesting or potentially big things that might show up, I kind of wanted to go over that. Plus, it gives just, an idea of things that I think are fun or look fun that are coming out or already out or kind of first available at this sort of show. So this is going to be a list of about 7 or 8, and then we're going to discuss a few other things. Like I said, I'm going to be there all weekend. If anyone who listens is going, please put in the notes below, mention what you're looking forward to, anything like that. If you're going, like I said, be there the whole weekend. I'm going to have a drink and a shirt. My wife will have one on at least one day as well. She has bright pink hair. We're not too tough to miss. So, without further ado, let's go through this particular list. And like I said, this is mostly going to be board games, but I will discuss some miniature stuff as well, but going to keep it much more towards the board game side. All right, so for anyone who hasn't been there before, essentially one of the ways that they do this is there's obviously a giant vendor hall. There's a space off to the side for, thousands upon thousands of people to sit at tables and play some games. And there's also an unpublished room for people who are trying to test out their games or trying to get people interested in their games. But otherwise, importantly, there's also a room of first looks. First looks are essentially games that are usually released about this year, haven't been really seen at the convention before. Maybe they came from Essen or somewhere else. I remember a few years ago, we played, I believe the game is called Dog Hotel. I'm not sure because it was in Japanese. And we went through the instructions in this area, and most of it was in English, but little bits were in Japanese, so we didn't really figure out what that was, but we had a good time anyway. So some of the games I'm going to talk about are showing up there. This first one is not, though, specifically because it was there last year, apparently. And as far as I know, the publisher is not actually showing it either, but I do know they have copies in the board game library, so I'm hoping to be able to maybe sit down and get a shot at it. If not, I do know some people who, I know at least one person who owns the game, did the Kickstarter, so has it in hand, and that is Arcs. Now, Arcs is by Letter Games. Letter Games is probably best known for Root, but they've done a variety of other ones. They did Oath, they're probably quite well known for that as well as Ahoy and Vast. Vast might have been their first well-known game. I don't know if it was actually their first game, but first well-known. Vast is neat. In Vast, you are depending on their games are essentially everyone is playing a bit of a different game in our game together. So say in Vast, the idea there was it was a dungeon delving to go take out the dragon. And depending on player count, you could be the hero trying to slay the dragon. You could be the dragon trying to wake up and escape. You could be the goblins, essentially, in there trying to take out the hero. Or you might be the dungeon trying to destroy everyone. When you think of Root, everyone is essentially a different group of woodland creatures that work in different ways with the goal is to win, but the way in which they win can be very different. You could be outwardly trying to attack and fight people, or you could be wanting people to trade with you and that ups your points and things like that. At the end of the day, their games, later on at least, when we also think of Ahoy and all that, are essentially points-based. So we are working a little bit different way, but the end goal is whoever gets the right amount of points wins the game. For Arcs, now what I will say in this overall list, some of the games I know a little bit more about than others. Some I'll explain why I'm interested in each of them. For Arcs, I don't know tons about it, honestly. I'm interested because it's letter games. I do know the idea is that you are, I guess, maybe representatives or envoys of a failing federation or empire, however they want to put it. And you're now in a different part of space and you're trying to take control. They mentioned that you are going to be winning through battles, intrigue, and resources. So it very well could be that different factions or different pieces do some of those better than others. I'm kind of interested to find out. I purposely have been a little bit going dark on this particular one because I want to be able to sit and experience it rather than like attempt to figure it out first. Specifically, what I really like about letter games is that they have a very nice way to add asymmetry with, often in their games, if I'm going to teach you the game, if I'm going to teach you Root, I'm going to teach every player something different. But at the end of the day, we're all still playing on the same board. But when I tell you what to do, that doesn't matter to the other person. That can make it a little bit of a challenge to teach some of these games. But it does mean later on, if you want to change up the game, you can play a different role entirely. You can try a different combination, not even a different role, but especially in that one, if you have different people coming to the table playing different roles, that really varies it up. I don't know if this follows exactly all of that, but the way that they're able to add variety into their games, I think is very, very interesting. And overall, I've really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that this one hits pretty big for me. Has a nice weighting. I like complex games in general. I don't mind a nice and easy game. Over Thanksgiving, we were playing like Camel Up, but we were also playing Spirit Island. So it kind of just depends. But I do, if I'm going to sit down for a while, I like a meaty game. And I also like the theoretical time limit. I don't know if that's accurate. I know Board Game Geek's numbers can be out very, very off. Well liked and very excited to try it out. Hoping to try it out. I don't always sit down for full games at PAX of just random things. We'll see if I can, but sometimes it's just enough to demo it and see what I think. Another one I'm really interested in trying out is SETI. Now, SETI is by CGE Games. At PAX, they actually have their own room. So they have a room, they have a booth, and I'm sure they have some stuff in the... I think this might be in First Look. I'm not entirely sure, but I know at least they have it in their area, and they'll be showing it off. I've went there before for some of the other games that they have. What I like about SETI, the whole idea is obviously it's search for extraterrestrial life. That makes sense of what it is. It reminds me a bit of the Search for Planet X. Search for Planet X is essentially looking for, this Planet X that's out, and you are doing more of like a deduction style game for that one. And when we pull this up, we'll notice it has some similarities there. You essentially have this gridded off, ever expanding board. This one, though, has a lot more other. So Search for Planet X is really only the middle part here. You have a lot more. You have other planets. You have a variety of cards. So it adds a bit more to it than that one. That one's a pure deduction game. Can you figure out, based off of clues, what you have in different spots? This one seems that you have a lot more cards, abilities, and tools at your disposal to, again, be able to search for the things that you want. I know this game is actually already out. I know it's gotten pretty good reviews from everything I've seen. It's obviously well liked on this, but that's not always a great indicator. Nice complexity, which I enjoy. Not too bad in terms of runtime, a little bit long. That's why I'm hoping more to maybe at this. I don't know if I'm going to sit down to get a full game in. That's kind of fine if I don't. But at least when I'm able to sit down, get a decent demo in so I can get a feel for what do I think of this game. I'm excited for its theme, its look, and I'm hoping it's as good as other people say. Next one. Most of these games are going to be rather complex that I look at. There is obviously simple, fun games. There's some areas that have nice, simple, fun games. That's just not the ones I immediately gravitate towards personally. Listed right now as a big old complex game that takes quite a while to play is Civolution. Again, well ranked coming out this year, which is nice. I don't care so much about the ranking. What I'll say on Board Game Geek, unless something is getting thrown high or slammed low, the ranking to me means if it's an 8 or above, I really want to make sure I try it. 7 or above, really good shot at giving it a chance. Lower than that, say down to about a 6, means you could enjoy it, but it's not necessarily going to be for everyone. You're kind of, to me, getting to, there's little gems in there, but a lot of them have some issues, and lower than that usually is a bad sign. If you're listening to this, though, tell me your favorite game that is low ranked, because I'm curious if I played it, or maybe I own it. I got a bunch of them upstairs. Civolution, this is by Stefan Feld. Stefan Feld, he's probably most famous known for Castles of Burgundy. He also did a few other, he's done about 40 or so games, I want to say. One of his, that's a favorite of mine, other beyond Castles of Burgundy, of course, is Forum Trajanum. I think he also did Trajanum as well, but I prefer personally Forum Trajanum. Stefan Feld is best known for taking a variety of mechanics, kind of stapling them together in a smart way that makes a game work. We often find, at least the way I feel, and okay, Castles of Burgundy doesn't exactly fit this, but it kind of does. What I often find for his games is that the theme takes a back seat to what the mechanics of the game are. And the mechanics usually, like I said, there are a variety of different ones. So he'll take, if you think of, say, a game, you might think of a game that, oh, it's a worker placement game. It is a tile laying game. It is, here is the thing. In his games, he usually tries to throw a lot of that together, but he does it in a very smart way that actually makes it work. Now, for Civolution, the concept of this game is it is your final exam, and your test is to build the best civilization that you can. So I guess you're otherworldly beings putting all this together. I don't know that particular bit of it, but you're trying to actually create a civilization and try to have the best one. The overall, as I've seen for this, it's dice selection to be able to do your actions. There's cards involved and all. I don't know all the little details of this one, but I guarantee there's probably about 3 or 4 different types of things that you're working with, trying to do. His games also, at least in my viewpoint, tend to, some of them fit a bit of what we call point salad, which means there's a variety of ways in which to score your points, because you're not going to necessarily be able to interact with each of those game mechanics to its full extent. So you might have, here's a tiling portion that can get you points. Oh, but here's a dice piece that can get you points. Here is a track that you move around to be able to get you points. You can interact with everything, but you won't be able to necessarily do all of them to the level to be able to max them out. And that's what I enjoy about his games. So, Civolution, I know this one's in the first look area. I don't know if I'll be able to quickly get my wife to sit down to try this one out. But even if not, maybe I can either just kind of look through it, peruse it a little bit, try it out at least a little bit, or see if I get some other play group. She will play complicated stuff, but I have to know it well enough to be able to explain it well, which I don't blame anyone. Essentially, my play groups, I'm the one who usually explains the games. One, because, explaining is what I do for a living. I teach, so I do nothing but explain things to people every single day, constantly. But the other thing is, I have no problem reading through rules. I like reading through rules. I like holding all that stuff. And I prefer to know, because otherwise I'm going to ask some weird questions, and it's just more convenient if I have an idea of what's going on. I think it's probably true for everyone, but that's what I like. All right, next game I want to talk about briefly. This one I know is also in the first look area, so I'm going to be able to at least try this out a little bit, or maybe get a little demo of it, is Black Forest. So Black Forest, this is an Uwe Rosenberg game. Uwe Rosenberg is probably best known for games like Agricola, Feast for Odin, Patchwork. He's done a variety of other ones as well. I said Stefan Feld had 40 games. Maybe it was Uwe Rosenberg. Both of them have quite a few names to the belt. I think Stefan Feld actually has the last. Uwe Rosenberg, I believe, has more. I don't know the exact number. This is by Capstone Games. And Uwe Rosenberg, when you look at actually, he's probably got 40 or, he's probably 40 or so. Reckhold and all these other ones. He tends to have a mechanic in that game, and different games kind of different mechanics. And future games, he often tries to iterate on that mechanic. Specifically for this one, what I do know about it is that from one of his games called Glass Road, there was a resource wheel. So a way to manage your resources. If you ever played Altiplano, same sort of idea that you have these wheels for importance there. We can see them right there. And he essentially took that and tried to, I guess, change and improve it, however that may actually be. Like I said, I don't know all the details of this one. I do know it's also a worker placement game, and I personally love worker placement games. So worker placement game, this sort of wheel that he's worked on and iterated a bit, sounds very interesting to me. It's not as well liked. That's fine. He Uwe Rosenberg, I find, is a little bit polarizing. Stefan Feld probably as well. Stefan Feld, if you don't like, the scaffolding that he does, I could see it. Uwe Rosenberg, he is going to give you a particular thing, and you better like that particular thing the way he gives that to you. Feast for Odin, honestly, I'm a big fan of. Greco, I think, is good. Patchwork, I've played plenty of times, so I do like his work, and I am excited to give this one a shot. I also think it just looks nice. I like a lot of games that have sort of environmental feels to them, even if it's not an environmental game. Some of the ones we talk about will, but it has that sort of look to it because they often have just a nice pop to them. Next one we're going to talk about is Rebirth. So Rebirth is Reiner Knizia. For anyone who doesn't know, there's equivalents to this in miniatures, because you could go Perry Brothers or Ralph Bartha. You could talk about people who maybe, or you could talk about some designers as well, Tomas and all of them. But you have names that are well known in that particular hobby, for lack of a phrase. If you think of card games, you're probably thinking of Richard Garfield. If you enjoy a card game, there's a really, really good chance Richard Garfield made it, was consulted on it, or had done it in the past and someone updated it. Think of Magic, Vitae. He's done some board games as well. King of Tokyo is his, but he's kind of known in that space. The same way as you'll have certain miniature makers, or, you could just say Warhammer in general, but other ones like that. When you get to board games, Reiner Knizia is the name. His website lists that he has made 800 games, or over 800 games. He is, as far as I know, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, the most prolific board game creator of all time. He has more games than some companies have ever even put out, and he does it. So I'm not going to say necessarily what he's best known for. I'm going to talk about things related to this, because there's tons of games. You could spend forever looking at the different games that he's done. You can look up people's, say, top 50 lists, and you'll have some differences in there. Specifically, though, the ones I'll mention, he came out with, within the last about 5 years or so, I believe, both this game called My City and My Island. Another one he's known for is Hunt for El Dorado and all these other ones. But My City, My Island, both of them are tile-laying games, and this is another tile-laying game. It's tile-laying in about an hour with a low complexity, which is absolutely fine. I enjoy that sort of thing. They show a little bit of it here. So we'll pull that up for a second. In My City, as well as My Island, you can play them in terms of a somewhat legacy, 24 games total, 8 chapters with 3 games a chapter, where every chapter introduces some new ideas, mechanics, or pieces, and you use them over those 3 games. The next chapter could remove those, alter those, change those, and there's a progressive story. My City was the first of that one. You were, as it sounds, building up a city, had some interesting things that occur. We currently, you can't see it, it's over there right now, we're finishing up My Island, hoping to finish before we actually go to PAX. We have 6 games of it left, we have 2 chapters left, and a game takes about 20 minutes in that. And both of these games can be standalone. But in that one, now you have hexagonal tiles that you're putting together, and you're now on an island. And for that one, he really allowed himself to kind of let it change and alter more than the previous game did. So in My City, it's a little bit more regimented, game to game. I would say smaller changes than this one. This one actually adds in a lot of extra things. I don't want to say what it adds in, because if you're playing it in that sort of format, you want to open up those pieces and find out. But it is definitely the more complicated of the two. Rebirth is another tile-laying game. Doesn't have that sort of legacy mechanic. You can play it standalone like the others. Big thing of this is you either are Ireland or I think Scotland. I believe that's the other piece. And you are laying down, you're picking up some tokens, choosing a few on your turn, laying them down, and putting them together in sets gets you point. Putting together certain spots gets you point. Being around certain things lets you put the towers and buildings that you see stacked up here. I'm not sure the names that they attach to each of them. That doesn't matter, really. But you were essentially filling this out. Hey, when you run out of pieces, the game is over, kind of thing. Or there might be there's cards as well. You can use that to be able to get extra points and all. But I enjoy tile laying games. I'm not good at them. My wife beats me on. She complains. She will not complains. She will mention often how I beat her in a variety of other games. It's not true. But specifically in tile laying games, she wipes the floor with me almost each and every time. In our little thing over there right now, I'm losing pretty big with 6 games left, and I'm not sure if I can pull it back. I'm going to try. I pulled it back a lot the last few, but I don't think it's going to be enough. She creamed me in my city. She's probably going to have a better island than my particular island as well. But they're fun, a bit lighter, and I really do enjoy them. Like I said, I might not be great at them, but I do like what they do. And games like this, or games like Acropolis, which is tile laying, although the tiles look a little bit different because they're sections of a Greek city, a city essentially. But they're also usually nice and light, and a kind of game where you can sit there and be having your full conversation and all while still playing. Whereas if you're sitting down for, say, Civolution, no, we're playing. I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is much more, much tougher to figure out, and much more important, and much more maybe Euro. So that matters a lot more what's happening. Where this game, we can sit down, have our conversation while we enjoy the game. So really, absolutely wanting to try this out. Probably going to pick it up as long as I look at it and I don't think it's the worst thing ever, and I don't. I'm just going to buy it. Floresta. Floresta. For this one, we can see it mentions it's by Amiibo Games. I don't know those designers, so I don't want to talk. I can't talk about other games they've done. I mentioned the ones that I know names of and things like that, but I don't personally know. A few things I like about this one in particular. One, I think it has a very nice look. Like I said, I do like sort of natural looking ones, pieces like that. For this one, it is up to 4 players. I know that you are essentially, depending on, I think it's actually off of dice rolls. Oh, no, sorry, it's off of cards, not dice rolls in this one's. But off of pulling cards, you're playing cards that have from 1 to a 6. That is telling you where you're either allowed to plant some of your trees, like we see off to the sides here, where you can put up some towers. And I know there is some forest fighting involved as well, because your tower tells you how far your engine goes and all. I don't know the exact mechanics of it, but that's part of the joy of this. Before I go, I am going to try to look at Let's Plays or read rules for games that are in that first look area. I know they have people there that can teach. I don't want to have to rely on them, though. I'd rather be able to kind of figure it out myself. So I have a short list of games I absolutely want to try there. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to be trying to read or get comfortable enough with the rules that I feel that we can kind of get through it a bit. Even if we don't get it perfect, it'll be enough to get a feel for how good this game is. One concern I do have with this one is the symbols on it. So for those dice, is it going to be easy to read them from a distance? Or when it comes my turn, I play my card, am I going to have to get over the board and look at it really to try to see it? But I think it has a nice looking theme, very beautiful looking game. And I do like the idea of, it's essentially worker placement to an extent. You are using cards to place down things, and what I place could get in your way. So not exactly worker placement, but a little bit that idea to me. All right, next one I want to talk about is Endeavor Deep Sea. I will admit, I know very little of this game. Actually, I was listening, I can't remember their name right now, but I was listening to another podcast that was discussing some board games, and they mentioned this one. So I looked up a little bit about it. This is a follow-up to Age of Sail, which I know is very well liked. Decent mid-weight, not too long of a playtime. I know the idea is it's essentially like aquatic life protection. I'll be honest, I don't know much else about this game, but they were talking about it, and it really sounded interesting. And a follow-up to a game that is pretty universally liked to me means that I should take a look at this, because there's something going on there. Sorry, I can't say more about it. If you know more about it, feel free to say so, but I'm just excited to see it. All right, another thing I'm excited to look at, I know I can only demo and all, can't buy it, can't do any of that right now, is for the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. So this is by Chip Theory Games. Chip Theory Games is known for, just beyond their games, they're known for absolute premium games. Here's what I mean by that. Their games tend to be quite expensive. Conventions is a great way to get it because then you have to pay shipping because their games are also super, super heavy. They're probably best known, like I said, for Too Many Bones. The base box of Too Many Bones is like this big, and it is very, very heavy. I will admit, I was sent that box as part of a board game teaching thing that I do, or I did. I don't really do it right now. So I got that one for free. I will fully say that. But I bought a bunch of their other stuff for that game. I've tried out some other ones. They're just not for me for the price point. Part of the reason the prices are high for their games is it's all clay chips. It is neoprene mats for everything. It is, very nice and slick, super high quality cards, actually almost on like almost like a plastic really for the cards. And their games, from what I played, actually I really do like. I think Too Many Bones is a great game. I think it plays well at single up to the 4-player. I played it at 1, 2, as well as 4. I haven't played it 3. But I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan. Now, this is, I don't think it was a Kickstarter. I think it might have been Backer Kit or one of the other funding platforms, but it was put up there. I know it is still available for people to pledge into. And I know they said they won't have the game available, but they will have at their booth where you can stand there and they can walk you through a little bit, demo it a little bit that way. And I really want to try that out. I did not back it after one. I'm sure it was expensive. I don't know the price off the top of my head, but I guarantee it was expensive. But I didn't do it because one, I kind of got burned on the Mythic Games doing Darkest Dungeon. I'm going to make another video about that at some point, hopefully soon. On this channel, I want to start doing more board games, so you should see some more board game content as well. Especially as with the other guys, it's tough for all of us to record together, so I'm trying to work solo, work with one of them at a time, both of them when they're able to make it fit for their schedules. I know life gets crazy for people, but for some of my solo stuff, other than just Conquest, I do want to start getting into more board game things, as well as some other stuff as well. But I really do like Elder Scrolls. I like the work they've done in the past. So I'm really curious to see what this game is actually really like. Because if it is very good, I would consider putting some money into it. But I gotta test it first. So one reason you can kind of see why their games are a bit premium. Unlike the other ones, it's not a neoprene mat. There is neoprene mats, I guarantee you. I can see one a little bit further down here. But you have your clay chip for your character. You have your clay chips for health. So each one of these is a health. However big your stack is, that's how much health you have. We can see that they got an enemy over here. They have their various stats, health, probably maybe defense, attack, or some other bits like that. They have all of that. What I will say is also the games are usually known for being symbol heavy because you got to fit all on a chip. So you'll have a lot of symbols, a lot of pieces. So often, like when I'm playing Too Many Bones, every character there is different. Every character has different symbols on their thing. So you got a big old sheet of information. I don't know if it's going to be exactly that same level here. It looks a little bit different, but notice there is some dice with different symbols. You do have this neoprene thing where you're putting your dice into, putting at least tokens. It might be dice as well, but at least putting your tokens into, as well as you have your race and your class all put together. Again, more chips back here, so you can see that they do a really good job. But because of that, their stuff is expensive. So this I'm absolutely going to try out. If it is good, yeah, I would think about putting some money into it, but I'd have to try it out first. I couldn't remember one of their other games before, so fair warning, this is my second recording of this, because the first one, on the audio mix, I had a thing set, and it was cutting out the audio. It was essentially a dampener to try to get rid of low sounds, but it was cutting everything out. Is it Too Many Bones? Absolutely great game. Cloudspire, not personally for me. Good, but not really my sort of thing. Same thing with Burn Cycle. I like them. I just don't like them for the price because they do great work, but then their games are at a premium. Hobbleglamus, I liked, but it was more of meant to be one player, and I already have a bunch of one player stuff. I want more games that I can play with other people, have my wife play, whoever happens to be around. So I was just looking for something a little bit different personally. All right, so those are the board games. Miniatures wise, like I said, I'm not doing miniatures. I do know they're doing a bunch of them. I know if you're one, I think it's pretty much sold out, so hopefully you have tickets if you were going. But they do have a bunch of miniature conventions. or sorry, miniature tournaments. Most of them are no extra cost. If you want to do card game stuff, it usually is, because they give you card packs and all. For this though, there usually isn't. I know there's a conquest tournament. Last I checked, it was at 16 or so people last time I checked, but that was honestly about a week ago. I don't know how many it is now. I'm absolutely going to be stopping by there. I'm hopefully going to film a little bit and talk to some people, see how that's going and all. Maybe see if anyone want to talk about the experience afterwards. Would love to record some of that. But like I said, I'm just not playing in it because, one, my wife has no interest in watching me sit down and play miniatures games. Two, like I said, I can play miniatures most weeks. There's options for that. So I want this to be the rest of that experience. I'm going with a lot of friends and family as well. And so that works very well for me. But I do want to go by through and see that. I want to see some of the last hurrahs of X-Wing. Probably actually, I got some X-Wing I got to sell. Maybe I should try and sell it before all the hurrahs are over. I think they're going to do something with Halo, is it called Flashpoint or whatever it is, the new Halo miniatures game. I'd like to be able to take a look at that. Maybe someone there can actually run me through a really brief, 20-minute thing of it. Because I was actually talking to someone last night after we were done with our Arkham Horror, the card game, discussing the game, and they tell me how they enjoyed it and a bit of the feel. But I kind of, especially for miniatures, I got to sit down and try it to really understand it. So I'd actually really like to be able to maybe give that a shot. I know Weirder's there with his Malifaux stuff. I haven't played a Malifaux. I don't think they're anything for War Machine. Although I know our area, people are really, I know at least in some of the groups I talk in, that is what it's all about now, is War Machine. So I'm interested to see if they do anything for that. If anyone's there. I don't think Steamforge Games is there, but I'm curious to see if there'll be any representation of that, because I would like to find out maybe a little bit more of that as well. So okay, that's it for this particular video. Like I said, I wanted to express the things that I'm curious to see. I want to start doing some more board game related content. I will always mark it as more board game focused, of course. Once PAX is over, you're going to begin a video discussing that. Like I said, if any of the people, I'm going to try to talk to some of the people who are doing, say, the Conquest Tournament. If any of them want to talk to me afterwards, discuss how that went, discuss lists, ideas like that. Really like to be able to do some of that stuff as well, and whatever else may come out. I'd like to start doing some reviews related to board games as well. That's something that shortly I have some time off because, like I said, I teach. So over winter I have time off. I'd like to be able to actually use some of that time to record some board game reviews, as well as more battle reports and all as well. Had a little bit of issue lately with some of that stuff, but I'm working with Steve. Probably be after the holidays just because of how close we are. But to start going through and recording games related to the City-States and City-States and Sorcerer Kings a lore pack, because we have that one. And I know they're coming out with another one that has Old Dominion in it. So hoping, I think it's Old Dominion and Nords. I think that's the other side, I forget. But when that comes out, I wanted to go through that one as well. As always, let me know anything that you would like to see. If you want to see more board game stuff, if you're interested, if you're going to PAX, like I said, hey, say so in the comments below. Like I said, I'll be there the whole time. At least Saturday as well as probably Sunday, wearing some shirts because I did pick some up, or at least one of the 2 days. But hoping to have a good time, hoping to maybe see some people there as well. And afterwards, be sharing some thoughts about it. All right, so that is enough for this. On behalf of everyone here at the show, have some good hobbying and some great gaming.